Well, the people at the top of the Forbes 400 got richer and richer again this year. They're worth a combined 459 billion. That is up 52 billion in just 1 year. 19 of the top 20 are richer than they were last year. At the very bottom are the Mars siblings. They are worth 13.8 billion apiece and tied at number 20, and they're basically the folks that own the world's largest candy company. At number 19 is Steve Ballmer. He's the beleaguered Microsoft chief, and he's worth 13.9 billion. At number 18 is Michael Dell, worth 15 billion. You want to say a little bit about what's going on with him?
Basically, Dell has sort of, at this point, ceded the tabloid and phone game to their rivals, and now they're focusing a lot on their enterprise business, which is storage, servers, that sort of thing, data, and that's now 20% of their $60 billion revenues.
Number 17 is John Paulson. He's a hedge fund manager. He was at number 20 last year. It was his first time in the top 20, and he moves up to 15.5 billion. And then at number 15 are the Google guys. What I think is interesting is that they're both up, but they seem to be moving a lot slower up the list than some of their others.
I think this actually might be kind of a bellwether year for them, just because after a decade of Eric Schmidt as CEO, Larry Page, one of the two co-founders, has stepped back into that role. And it's sort of like, the young guys taking the reins of the company again. And I think the big question is, how will this change in direction and the change in leadership affect the share price?
Number 14 is Mark Zuckerberg, who basically leapfrogged over these guys. And Steve, you did that file. Tell us why he's up so much and what's going on there.
He's up so much because of Facebook. I mean, he owns basically a quarter of the company, and this is a company that, it was really popular. No one knew if it would make money or not. And I remember, 3-4 years ago when it was valued at $1 billion, people thought it was crazy. Now, after a recent sale by this advertising company, Interpublic, valued the company at $66.5 billion. So that raises Zuckerberg's stake up huge. And he's worth $17.5 billion right now.
And at number 13 is Amazon's Jeff Bezos. Claire, tell us how on earth he moved up so quickly.
Well, I don't even know if you can call him tech anymore, because he's really, like Amazon started out as this bookstore online, and who would have known that it would be just over 10 years later the biggest online retail in the world.
At number 12 is New York City's mayor, Mike Bloomberg. He's worth $19.5 billion, and he's up, but it's interesting because he loses his spot in the top 10. The next 3 spots are the Waltons, perennials on the top 20. Robson Walton, who's the Walmart chairman, his sister Alice Walton, and then Jim Walton. At number 8 is Las Vegas gaming tycoon Sheldon Adelson, who is making a fortune in China and Macau. Then we've got George Soros, the hedge fund manager, why don't you tell us a little bit about him?
Sure. This is actually George Soros' first time on the top 10 list. He decided to give back money from his fund to outside investors. So his fund's worth $25.5 billion, and he's giving back less than $1 billion. And the rest of the money is his.
Okay, so Christy Walton is America's richest woman at number 6, and she has an investment in solar energy that pushes her above the others. At number 4, tied are the very conservative Koch brothers, who are worth $25 billion apiece, and they control the country's second largest private company. And now, drum roll please, the top 3 spots on this year's Forbes 400. It's actually not a huge surprise. Number 3 is
Larry Ellison, the head of CEO of Oracle Corporation, the software company, has been in and out of the courtroom a lot this year. They've been in some legal battles with the German software company SAP, and also with Hewlett-Packard.
Which leads us to Warren Buffett, who I actually think is perhaps, after Zuckerberg and Bezos, the most interesting story, because
He's the only one of the top 20 to actually lose money this year. Now, part of it was because he's been very generous. Between our last 2 rich lists, he's given away $3.3 billion to the Bill Gates Foundation. He gives away stock mostly to that.
Well, I think it's just amazing that he's worth $39 billion, and that is $20 billion less than Bill Gates, who he was above not that long ago.
So Bill Gates has been number 1 on the list, richest on the Forbes 400 list, 19 times since 1992. The one year he didn't make it was in 1993 when Warren was richer than he was. Gates is spending all his time on the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. His investment fund Cascade invested in a whole mess of things, private equity, bonds, global equities, and a quarter of it's still in Microsoft stock.
Great. Well, I think just to recap, the rich get richer, but the interesting thing is that we have a lot of familiar faces this year, but we also have some newcomers pushing up into those top ranks, mostly driven by technology, social media, and I think it'll be really interesting to watch over the next few years to see if any of these kind of young innovators can push into the top 10.